Joining us. What did I say? What did I call him? I didn't call him I called you a tight end? Did I? A defensive back. Yeah, that was a late night for me. All right, let's start with this. Let's start with Baker. What did you see? What did you like?
Man, Baker looked good. And I've been one of those guys defending Tyrod. Joy knows this. I've been defending Tyrod from day one. But that team looked noticeably different with Baker out there. I don't know if the play calling was different, even though it looked a little different. But the guys were blocking. They seemed more energetic.
The receivers ran back to the huddle
shot
faster.
of adrenaline that team needed, and especially at that moment because, like y'all said earlier, this game was about to get out of hand, I thought, when I was watching it. I was kind of like, wow.
Jets up 14-3. Yeah, Darnold picks up a first down, and you're like, if they score here, it's over.
Yeah. And Baker comes in, and he just looks different.
Let me ask you this. You played with a young Michael Vick, and Rich McKay, who's in the front office of Atlanta, told me. He said Michael was one of those rare players, that there was an energy around Michael. Players love Michael. He said Michael would get hurt, and our shoulders would slump. And he goes, Michael would come in, and everybody ran back to the huddle faster.
You just felt like you always had a chance. When he had the ball in his hands.
That's what I felt last night. It looked like the wide receivers for Cleveland were like, okay, here comes our guy. Now, does that tell me that Baker was really good in practice, maybe?
I think it just tells you that team and those guys know who's ultimately going to be the guy. And though they love Tyrod and they respect Tyrod, they still know that at some point, no matter how good Tyrod does, it's Baker's team.
He's the substitute teacher.
Exactly. So we can be on our best behavior and we can do as much as work as you give us. But ultimately, when the teacher comes back is when we really have to be the dudes. Yeah, and you saw when he was out there.
Jarvis Landry knows eventually, dude, this is not a long-term relationship. Yeah. I'm going to stay in Cleveland for 4 years. Baker's going to be my quarterback. Yeah. So instead of having the substitute, let's get the teacher back into class. Now, Darnold did not have a good night. Now, he had lousy field position, and he didn't have a ton of weapons. And people could say I'm making excuses. Are you bailing on Darnold this morning? What did you see?
No, I'm not. I'm not bailing on him because I kind of struggle a little bit because the Jets organization – I don't know if they know how to cultivate a quarterback. But having seen right now where Sam is versus where, let's say, a guy like Mark Sanchez was, even though this is a defensive coach and a defensive football team, I still feel as though Sam just has some of those intangibles that you can't coach. Yeah. And whether it's extending the play, whether it's his moxie, whether it's just – I just feel like when I watch him play – it's different. It's different than watching when Sanchez played. And even though he doesn't have offensive-minded coaches, they're still making him throw the ball. I felt like they hampered Mark because they didn't let him throw the ball. They
didn't trust him.
Nah, they didn't trust him. They decided to run, and throw when everybody in the stadium knows you were throwing the ball on 3rd and 7, and it just made it so hard for him. And you can see now with Sam, it can be a 1st and 10, and they're going to drop back and let him throw and let him go through his progressions. And so I think ultimately he's going to be better in the long run. But right now, he's struggling. He's struggling because he doesn't have the weapons like we said. It's hard when you go out there and your best receiver is
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson. Yeah.
Who's been talented.
And not a bad player, but definitely not a number one. Terrell Pryor, who couldn't catch a ball for us in Washington, and he's a go-to guy.
I know. I don't want to make excuses because people think I hate Baker and I love Sam, and though I would have drafted Sam over Baker, I never thought Baker would be a bust. Baker does something really well. Sees, quick release, ball comes out, accurate. He's not going to be a bust. He throws too good of a football, and he does have a zip on the ball. When you watch Baker play it, he can zip it. He can, as they call it in the NFL, he can spin it.
He can.
You know, it's interesting. I'm going to give you a game this week, and it's one of my Blazing 5 picks.
Okay.
So Washington and Green Bay. Now, on the outside, you would say Green Bay is going to have this game all wrapped up. Mm-hmm. Washington is a funky franchise, okay? Mm-hmm. The years you bailed on them with Kirk Cousins, they won the division. And with Alex Smith, I feel the same thing, that everybody's just kind of put them in fourth place. You played in Washington. Last year, they came out to L.A. and shocked the Rams. Mm-hmm. They went to Seattle and shocked the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. This organization, I've always had a hard time getting a beat on Washington. They're inconsistent. They shock you. You've been in some of these big games for them. I think they're going to play really well against Aaron Rodgers and rise to the moment. I think they have a pass rush. Give me the Washington culture. For them, Packers, Aaron Rodgers at home, what do you expect this weekend?
You know, you said you like the pass rush, and I like the pass rush as well, but at certain times when I see this pass rush, they don't look like the same guys. Like you watch them in week 1 against Arizona, and you would have thought this front 4, front 7 was one of the best defenses in the National Football League, and that's what I thought we were going to see. And then you see him week 2 against a guy like Andrew Luck, who's throwing the ball all over the place. Absolutely no pressure. But it's the team in general. I feel as though from the outside looking in, they don't know who they want to be. And as a football team, as an offense, as a defense, as a special teams, you have to know who you're going to be, your identity, what that's going to be, what you're going to hang your hat on. And you have to consistently do that. You saw him run the ball successfully against Arizona. And then you go against Indy and you don't run the ball. You're running stretch plays and you're not letting Adrian Peterson come downhill. And so this team is –
they're an enigma.
I never know which team I'm going to get.
Thank you. Generally, DeAngelo, it's funny. In the NFL, there's all these dysfunctional teams, and we all know them. Cleveland, Buffalo. And then there's the great teams, New England, Pittsburgh. Washington's in the middle. Yeah. They got all sorts of Super Bowl trophies. And they also had years and decades where they've been completely dysfunctional. To your point, you played for them. I find them one of the hardest teams in the league to figure out. Yeah. And I just have a feeling this week, we saw them look great in week 1 and timid in week 2. But you've been in that culture. Is it Dan Snyder? Who creates it? What do we get? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it even comes from the top down. I think it's just being in that locker room. It was one point when I was in Washington where we had beat every Super Bowl champ, I think, for like in a 4-year period at some point when we played them in the season. And looking back, it's like, how can we beat the team that won the Super Bowl, but we win 5 or 6 games? And in the NFL, it's all about being consistent. It's about doing it day in and day out. And that's what bothers me about this game. I don't know which team I'm going to get because Green Bay's shown – you saw Minnesota and Kirk Cousins put up big numbers. So Green Bay has shown that they'll give up the big play.
They do.
They've shown that they can't protect Aaron Rodgers.
Haven't.
And so if this team just does what they have to do to win the ball game and not get enamored with, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, deer in headlights, because it is a young football team, too, they're putting out there on the field. I think they got a chance to win this game because I know they can score points on Green Bay. It's just stopping Aaron Rodgers when you absolutely have to get him off the field so your team can win the game.
DeAngelo Hall, a great corner, many seasons, 3 Pro Bowls. It's great seeing you on a Friday, bud. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.